Hey everyone, and welcome to Sasquatch Theory. In this episode, I speak with Karen, a lifelong horsewoman whose experiences stretch from the ranch lands of Florida all the way to the strange forest of the Midwest. What started as unexplained noises outside her window grew into a monthly pattern of activity that terrified the young woman living on the ranch. Something with long legs, dark hair, and an unnatural ability to move quickly was visiting the edge of the property, bumping into cages, peering through the windows, and pacing the yard whenever the dogs sounded the alarm. Across the road sat a state park, miles of untouched wilderness, and something was crossing that boundary at nighttime. What makes Karen's story even stranger is how often these visitations coincided with UFO reports in the same area, as if the activity on the ground and in the sky were somehow connected. In tonight's episode, Karen shares decades of strange encounters that challenge the line between the physical world and something far more mysterious. If you enjoy listening to Sasquatch Theory, like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, and if you have a Bigfoot encounter you would like to share with me here on the channel, feel free to reach out sometime at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com. So settle in, let's step into Karen's world where Bigfoot, UFOs, and the unexplained all collide. Karen, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. How are you doing today?
Pretty good.
Good. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. Karen, if you would, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and your experiences from the very beginning, please.
Okay, well, I grew up in Iowa, and then I was going to college down at USF in Florida. Lived near Tampa, and so I was going to college, and I had a roommate that I took her to the American Invitational Horse Show, and she goes, "I want to do that," and I go, "Seriously?" So we started taking lessons together out at a farm called Two Rivers Ranch, Two Rivers Hunt Club. Which was just the address is actually Zephyr Hills, but it was like across from the state park. Uh, and there was fox hunters out there, and there was a riding instructor, and she gave hunt seat lessons, and we started taking lessons. I was doing good. My roommate petered out and quit taking lessons, and I kept going out there. And then eventually I moved out there, and I was taking care of the foxhounds and living on the ranch. And I had a couple of cocker spaniels, and it was open area where the kitchen and dining room kind of all runs together. And then between the kitchen and dining room, there was a hallway that went towards the outside. And in that hallway, off of that hallway was a little washroom. And I used to keep my cocker spaniels in that little room. And when we used to, I had sometimes I had two roommates, but usually I just had one roommate. And about once a month, and I'm telling you, I didn't realize at the time, but it was pretty much on a regular basis, like about once a month. And we would hear noises outside. And you know how when you are inside and you can't see outside because your lights are on? So we'd hurry up and try to get the lights off. But by the time we got the lights off to look out the window to see what was out there, it would be gone. And we could hear it, and it was a whooshing, and it would it had to have had long legs, because you know how you can hear that it's close and then you can hear that it's far. It traveled fast. It was very fast. So it had to have long legs. Anyway, my dogs one night, they were barking like bloody murder, barking like they were scared. And I had cleaned their kennel, and it was laying out on the yard outside of the house area off that hallway. And the Bigfoot bumped into that cage, and that's the only reason why I saw him. I only saw the back of him. And he was hairy, he was dark, and he was kind of like humped over, like slouched back. But he was tall, but his legs were long. His torso was short. His legs were long. I didn't ever see his face. But when these things would happen once a month, uh, us girls in the house, we would be scared and we'd call the ranch foreman because, we didn't know what it was. Is it a window peeker? We were on a ranch. I mean, the property was huge. I mean, along the highway, it was 6 miles. The property was 6 miles along the highway. And so there was only three houses on the ranch: the riding instructor, us, and the ranch foreman. And there was nothing across the road. Across the road was the state park. So there was no houses anywhere around. So, like, if somebody was out there window peeking, they would have had to have driven there, which we never heard any cars. Anyway, so we'd call the ranch foreman, and he poo-pooed us. He would come, but I mean, he's driving up in his pickup truck with his headlights on, with his engine running. So, of course, he would never see it. And then when he'd talk to us, he'd go, "Oh, it was probably just an armadillo." And we knew it couldn't have been an armadillo. It couldn't travel. It traveled faster than an armadillo could go. So the ranch foreman never helped us at all. Eventually, Robert Thomas, the owner of the ranch, kicked us off. He kicked everybody off. He kicked the fox hunters off. People boarded horses out there. He kicked them all off. He just wanted it to be a cattle ranch. But I didn't notice at the time, and I never thought to see if I could see any footprints, or even when he tripped over my dog cage, if I could get any hairs off of the dog cage. If I had it to do over again, I'd look for hairs so they could do a DNA on it. Nowadays they do DNA. They didn't really back then. This was in the 1970s, late 70s. And so I didn't realize it at the time, but afterwards, maybe 5, 10 years afterwards, it dawned on me that I remember hearing that there would be like a UFO report. Like you'd hear it on the radio that somebody reported a UFO. And it dawned on me years later that we would hear the Bigfoot about the same time that there would be a UFO report, or some UFO reports. But I never put the two and two together at the time.
Yeah, that is very interesting. So you're saying when the UFO reports would take place, it was the same time frame when you were experiencing Bigfoot activity?
Yes, and it was always a full moon too.
Oh, wow. So you feel like the Sasquatch would become active when it was a full moon. That's interesting. I've heard a lot of people mention that same behavior. Do you feel like the Bigfoot was possibly attracted to you and the other girls, or maybe it was fixed on the dogs? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think it was us girls.
Yeah, so it had to have been watching you guys through the windows, which is creepy. But I mean, the noises that you heard out there, you couldn't dismiss. There was definitely someone or something outside, and
Yes,
when
and
you
we could hear the footsteps. We could hear it whooshing away.
was it like thump 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 away, or like what did it
No,
sound like a swishing
no,
sound?
like whoosh, 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 whoosh,
Oh
whoosh.
wow, yeah.
Like a big stride, like big strides going through grass.
hmm So it seemed to know when you guys were alerted to its presence and when you got up and turned on the lights and you were ready to check outside, like it knew that.
No, we had our lights on
Hmm.
and we would turn them off
Okay.
so we could see outside.
Wow.
Because you know how when you're inside and you have your lights on inside at night, you can't see outside.
Yeah. No, that completely makes sense. I feel like the creature was coming from the state park. Do you remember the name of the state park?
No, but it's on Highway 301, south of Zephyr Hills, between Zephyr Hills and Tampa,
Okay.
north of Tampa.
I'll look it up and see what I can
I
find.
think it's just Florida State Park.
Okay. And yeah, that's
And
spooky.
yeah, he probably was over in the state park, I'm going to guess.
Mhm. Yeah.
Robert Thomas Sr. owned half of Florida, and he donated the property of the state park to the state so that trespassers wouldn't come on the ranch property. That's what young Robert told me.
Yeah. Could you ever smell anything unusual when you were there?
Um, yes, but I don't. I mean, this is a long time ago now. This was in the 70s, so I don't really remember it. But yes, I mean, I can't say that we smelled it every time because we didn't go outside. We'd call the ranch foreman, and the ranch foreman would come and knock on the door and stuff. And he looked around before he knocked on the door, and then he'd knock on the door and ask, okay, what happened and whatever. And so we never went outside at that point. The only time I went outside was when he tripped over the cage and I saw him, and I went outside to check my dogs. That's the only time I saw him, and that's the only time I went outside.
Wow. So this Bigfoot creature tripped over the dog cage when it tried to flee the area?
Yep.
Wow. How big would you estimate the creature to be?
Um, Maybe 7 or 8 feet.
Do you feel like it was just one, or do you feel like it was a clan of Sasquatch, skunk apes, swamp apes, whatever you want to call them?
I I felt like it was just one, but it could be that there were others not close, but we would only hear one. Every month when we would hear the noise, it would only be one.
Yeah. It's very possible there were multiple creatures, but from the sounds of it, this was one that was on its own. People talk about them getting kicked out of the group, and when they get kicked out, they'll approach people's properties and try to steal food, and they become pretty territorial. I don't know for sure, but it's just information that's been gathered over time. And yeah, how did your dogs react when the activity first started? Did they growl, bark? Did they just look at like were they just very attentive? Like, can you describe that a little bit more? I know they lost their mind the last time.
Well, yeah, when he tripped over the cage, they were barking like crazy. They would bark other times, but it wasn't as blood curdling as that one time when I saw him. So I don't know how close he was before. Like maybe he never really got close enough before. Like the every month when we'd hear the noise, the whooshing outside.
Hmm.
It's possible that he was going to look in the windows, and then when we hear the noise, we'd run and turn the lights off, and that would scare him away, and then he'd run away, and then he never really got to look in the windows.
Wow. Yeah, that's frightening. I can't imagine how you felt. My friend Steve, he had a wiener dog, and we were camping in a Bigfoot area where the property owner was having activity. And like most dogs, when they're sitting on your lap and something gets their attention, they'll jump off your lap and just start barking in the wood line or, approach whatever it is. He didn't do that. Like when he sat on his lap and the Sasquatch approached, he just lifted his head, look intent, like he was looking intently, and he would growl. and that was it. Did your
And
dogs do anything like that?
yeah, but it was out in the country, so you always think it's just a armadillo or, something else that they're growling at or barking at.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm sure there's a ton of people out there that have never ever experienced Bigfoot activity, but they've had moments where their dogs are just growling and barking at something, and when they go and check, they just never see anything. And most likely there's definitely something out there. The dogs won't bark unless there's really something. I mean, it could be a mouse, it could be a squirrel, or it could be a Sasquatch. You just never know.
Yeah,
Man, th-
but
that's
but
frightening.
but since this noise thing would happen, and like I said, we didn't know if it was a window peak or like a person. Since that happened, like it started happening on a regular basis, and we would hear it whooshing away real fast, faster than a human could go. I'm going to say that. It was faster than a human could go.
Wow.
And when we after a while, when we would hear that, and we didn't know what it was at the time, but um because when I saw it, that was like one of the last times that I was there because Robert kicked everybody off the land eventually. Not because of us seeing, calling the ranch foreman every month. It wasn't because of that. He just wanted to get rid of the English riding people. He wanted it to be just a cattle ranch. But
Okay.
and it is still a cattle ranch. You can't go on it as private property, but um I did sneak up the driveway one time, long time ago, years later though. But I don't live down there anymore, so
hmm Well, with
I've never been back.
the UFO reports and the Bigfoot activity, was there ever any animals that were killed mysteriously? Any animal mutilations? Anything like that?
No, no, but I'll tell you what, I had animal mutilations when I lived in southern Iowa.
Really?
Yeah,
What happened?
yeah. Like one time um my our cat was skinned and half of it in half, and they threw it in the window well, in our window well. I just thought it was hunters and that didn't ask for permission to hunt out there, and um I was very pissed about that. But that happened a couple times where whatever it was killed a cat.
Wow. So,
And like I said, I thought it was just hunters being mean.
mhm. So it like skinned it, and you couldn't
Yeah.
tell like it didn't look like someone used a knife.
Well, no, it didn't really. It looked like they just pulled the skin off.
Yeah, yeah. I found the same thing in the middle of the trail, except it was a squirrel. And I know, like, when hunters kill a squirrel, like, there's this method of cleaning them where you just pull all the hide off. It looked like that, except a hunter didn't do it. And then it put it right in the middle of the trail, and Sasquatch are known to do that. Where did it leave the cat?
In our window well in the house.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so it almost seems like whatever it was sending you a message.
Yeah, it did kind of seem like that.
Or like it gave you the feeling that you're being watched or someone's out there, someone or something.
Well, we did have people come in southern Iowa. Lived on a farm too, and it was a big farm, so there wasn't very many houses there, and it was gravel to our house, and then past our house it was dirt, a dirt road down a hill. And we did have people come out. Some people would ask permission, but okay, so for example, if a guy would ask permission and I'd give him permission and I would say, but I want to know when you come and when you leave. And then because I gave that guy permission and he's got a party of 4 or 5 people, whatever, then the other party thinks that just because I gave that guy permission that one time that now he automatically has permission. So then they would take it upon themselves to come out and hunt on the land without asking, thinking they had permission, which
Yeah.
they didn't.
Yeah, I hate to hear
So
that.
it could have been a hunter that did that cat thing.
Yeah, it could have been, but it's certainly something to keep in mind. Not too long ago, I had a lady contact me from Florida. She never gave her report on the channel, but we talked a little bit. And she said she saw something massive and hairy, and she doesn't know what it was. And something was braiding her pony's hair, and she actually got really good video footage of it. And it was braiding their hair, and she doesn't know what it was.
But it was dark and hairy.
Yeah, yeah, an
Oh,
unknown
weird.
creature. Yeah, did you ever notice anything like that on the ranch where they were braiding the horse's hair?
No,
Yeah.
I didn't even notice any horses. Like, if a animal would like say a bobcat or something like that would come into the stable, the horses would make noise. They'd whinny and stomp around their stalls and stuff like that. And I never saw any of that. N- I never noticed any of the horses going wild in the barn at all. And we weren't too far from the barn. I would have heard them.
Yeah. So that night that the Sasquatch was out there and he tripped over the cage, you didn't hear the horses going nuts or anything like that?
I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, that is interesting. I've also heard people mention instead, like, sometimes the dogs they go crazy and they'll start barking, growling, looking intently. Sometimes the dogs just stay asleep through the entire situation. Did you ever notice that when things were happening outside, like the dogs were sedated?
Hmm. I mean, there might have been one of those monthly visits that might have happened where the dogs weren't making any noise at all. There
Hmm.
might have been some times like that.
Yeah.
Like I said, this was back in the 70s, so I don't really remember a lot.
Did
I
the
do remember seeing him, though.
uh huh.
I'm never going to forget that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a day to remember for sure. Did
Yep.
they ever tap on the window? Tap, 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 anything like that?
No,
Okay.
no.
What all did
It was,
they do when
I
they were
don't know
outside month
I
for
can't
month?
remember what the noise was that we
Hmm.
were hearing. I just remember that we were hearing noises, like probably just walking around or something.
Okay. So something moving around outside and things banging around possibly.
Yeah,
Okay.
just noises because like I said, we didn't know what it was.
Yeah. I don't know what's more terrifying, having some creep peeping through the windows or walking outside and seeing a Sasquatch. I think I'd pick the Sasquatch.
I don't know
Yeah.
because you now that it's all these years later and everything, and now you hear about abductions and UFO reports and different things. Now I think, well, you know, am I lucky that I didn't get abducted, like UFO abducted?
Yeah. No, I mean, you make a very valid point. I have noticed when there's Sasquatch activity, I'm also seeing strange things up in the skies. I rarely talk about it, but it is something that happens. And I don't know if it's coincidence or if they're connected. I don't know. One day I was hearing something walking around outside in the woods. It was nighttime. It definitely sounded bipedal, and it sounded like I don't know, like trees were being pushed over. Not big ones, but smaller trees. And at the same time, I look up and there's these really strange lights up in the sky. So I'm having a hard time figuring out like, do I want to pay attention to this in the woods or what's going on above me? And it was weird for sure. And it's not the first
But
time
don't you
that's
think
happened.
it's related? Do you ever think it's related?
Yeah, I feel like there's some sort of energy anomaly taking place. And if the Sasquatch truly are interdimensional and they're utilizing portals, then other things are coming through, whether it's spiritual beings as far as the paranormal and UFO activity. And I feel like they're all using the same doorways, and there's just other dimensions and other worlds right in front of us.
Like I never thought of it before when it was happening, but now it's that I'm older and I look back at it and you hear all this other stuff now. Uh, when I look back at it, I think that it's possible that, well, like before, I thought it was just a rare animal that nobody ever sees, but it's not like it's an alien or it comes here from another planet or anything like that. But now I don't know. I think that it's possible, looking back on it now, that it could be that Bigfoot is not of this world.
Yeah, I definitely think so because, like, how do tracks just disappear in the middle of a field when there's snow out and nobody finds the remains, like when one dies or any of the bones and the orbs that are associated with the activity, the static sounds, the metal doors just shutting, and I don't know. There's all kinds of strange things. The mind speak. I've never experienced that, but I've heard a lot of people talk about it, and it's just something you can't dismiss because there's too many people talking about the same things that don't even know each other, and the behavior definitely lines up and correlates with each story.
Yeah, and I never talked about it to anybody because if I did, I thought they would think that I was crazy.
Yeah. Did you ever tell the other girls what you saw? Did they see it too?
Yeah, we were all wondering what it was. We all thought it was a window peeker and we were all running around the house and we'd call the ranch foreman and the ranch foreman would just say, "Oh, it's probably just an armadillo." He said that every time. And so like I said, at the time, we didn't have any idea what it was. We just knew that we heard noises outside. And I'm trying to think if I had any roommates the time that I saw him because seems like to me at least nobody else was home. If I had roommates at the time, nobody else was home. That
Yeah.
time that I saw him, nobody else was home. It was
Mhm.
just me and my dogs. But the other times when we would hear noises and stuff, yeah, they'd be home. We'd all try to run to the lights to turn them off so we could see outside. We'd rush to the windows to see outside, and we'd be calling the ranch foreman. And we didn't have cell phones at the time. And so we just had to call on the landline, and he would just have to jump in his truck and drive down to us.
Wow. How many seconds would you say the encounter lasted? Was it just like a quarter of a second or was it a few seconds?
You mean the monthly visits?
No, the encounter where the Sasquatch tripped over the cage. Like, how long
Oh,
was the sighting?
oh, how long did I see him? Yeah, just couple seconds.
Yeah. And then it just vanished into the darkness.
Yeah, and by the time I got out in the hallway towards the outside to check on my dogs, it was gone. And of course, I was scared as hell. So I didn't really want to confront if it was an animal, I didn't really want to confront it.
Wow.
I don't want to be near it.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't blame you. Chances are the creature came back once you went back inside.
Mhm.
He couldn't have
If he
gone
did,
far.
I didn't hear him because you could usually hear him.
Hmm. Usually they'll run back into the woods and hide behind a tree and just stand there and observe. I'm not saying that's what it did, but it's very possible.
Well,
Yeah.
that creeps me out.
Hmm. And these creatures rarely mess up, but every now and then they do mess up, and it sounds like this creature tripped over the cage when he thought he was being sneaky.
Yeah, it was a wire cage, so it wasn't like a plastic kennel.
Hmm.
So he obviously didn't see it.
Was it in a different spot than what, like, where you would usually put it, or do you always put it in the
Yeah.
same place?
Yeah, usually it was in that little side room, and I was cleaning it, so it was sitting right outside the house.
Oh, dang. Yeah, you caught him off guard.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, maybe you got lucky. You never know because there's like a lot of missing people reports. You don't know what this thing was up to. Maybe they are nice, they're kind creatures, or maybe they have other intentions and they're waiting to grab you. It's hard to say.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I was, as far as I know, I've never been abducted.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to say, right? And the
Yeah,
new
because if it can make you lose your memory of it.
Yeah, there is that. A lot of people have said that if you see a UFO, that you've actually been abducted and it's just them bringing you back. You just can't remember when you were abducted, which is kind of scary to think.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, you got lucky in this case, and it sounds like he wasn't trying to hurt you guys, and he was just really curious. Maybe he was looking for food. The Native Americans say they're attracted to women and children, and in this case, they were definitely watching the girls. And
Well, we were young and we were fair looking,
yeah, how old were you at the time?
20-ish.
Okay, well, maybe that's a tactic that I need to try is bring a group of girls out the next time I go Bigfooting, and maybe they'll come in.
Yeah, he might not come if he sees you though. You got to
I know.
hide.
Yeah, that's what my friend David from a place called the Killing Fields. He said they won't come up to you because you always have your cameras out, and that kind of I don't know that hit me hard. And I sat there and thought about it. I was like, maybe he's right. I'm always out there with my cameras on a tripod, and they see all the gear and they don't approach me because when I'm not there, like people that are camping in that same campground have activity, but they don't have any cameras. They're just out there, relaxing and enjoying
That's the
nature.
thing about this. This thing knows when you have a camera and when you don't.
Oh yeah, for
Whatever
sure.
it is, it knows, and it does. It's not just because it sees it. Somehow or other else, it knows.
Oh yeah. If I lived out in the woods and I was observing people, I'm not going to approach the people that have firearms or things that I can't understand. I'm going to wait till they go to sleep to harass them. I'm not saying I would do that. But I'm just saying if I lived out in the woods, like I definitely want to approach people if things seemed iffy. I feel like Sasquatch has that same ability. Like it knows that something's not right.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just instinct or if they have some kind of other sense.
Definitely other senses and an intelligence that goes beyond our understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any other experiences that you can think of that maybe popped up into your mind as we were talking about everything? Anything that you
Well,
forgot?
you were talking about UFOs, and I have seen a UFO at times in other places. In fact, I live in Wisconsin now, and I know that I saw a UFO here in Wisconsin, um, living on our property. So in the back pasture, it's looking north, and it was a kind of looked like a blimp. Like it was just oval, like you see people say TikToks, but it was closer than, a faraway TikTok would look. And so it looked bigger, like a blimp.
Mhm.
And it was going along and it was going east. And then the clouds covered it up. And then by the time the clouds dispersed, it was gone.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's
I,
the
s-
only other thing.
I seen the same thing when I was in South Carolina traveling to a place called the Stump House Tunnel. And on my way there, I noticed something that looked like a blimp, and I convinced myself that's what it was. And I'm not really sure. Maybe it was a blimp, maybe it was a UFO, but it was strange.
But now, but you're saying if you've seen one, then you were abducted, you just don't have a memory of it.
Yeah, yeah, that's what people say, especially the people that are driving when they see one, or they wake up and they see lights outside their house and or a UFO. And that's scary to think about because I've had situations like that. I hope I haven't been abducted.
Me too.
Because you hear
Um,
a lot of stories where people wake up and there's like a gray alien standing next to their bed. I feel like
yeah,
there's a lot more to it than they just woke up and saw a gray alien. I feel like that's just a piece to the giant puzzle.
yeah. Well, I have seen some, what I don't know if they were UFOs or not, out my window at the same time every morning. Um, but now it's not out that window anymore. It's out this other window. And then when I told my husband about it, he said, "Oh, it's probably just a drone," or he'd say, "Oh, it's probably just a satellite," and it could be, but I don't think it's a satellite because it's in a different place all the time. And if it was a satellite, you know, orbiting, it would be, you could tell that it was in an orbit and it's in a different place.
hmm Yeah, it's very likely it could be. You don't happen to live close to Hayward, do you? Hayward,
No,
Wisconsin? Okay. There's been a
no.
lot of strange
I,
reports from that area, but I'm sure there's
I live near the
strangeness.
Dells.
Where is it at?
Near the Dells,
Okay. I'm not familiar with
Wisconsin
that area.
Dells. The Dells is like a vacation area. It's like the water park capital of the world.
Okay. Well, you never know. I mean, definitely keep an eye out for future activity and you might see something extraordinary.
Yeah, I keep watching the skies because the Earth is wobbling. If you look at the moon's orbit is not normal. And it's not the moon, it's the Earth.
Yeah. I'll keep an eye out for that in the future. But yeah, if you experience anything else in the future, especially Bigfoot activity, contact me and give me an update as to how things unfold later on in your life.
I've never heard of any Bigfoots up here in Wisconsin where I'm from, but where I'm living now. But um, on my way from my home over to Baraboo out in the country, there is a house and they have like silhouette of a Bigfoot. So I don't know if those people have ever seen a Bigfoot out there in the woods. And then they just made a sign up that is looks like a Bigfoot. You know, it's kind of like a yard decoration,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
but
always
it's all
wonder that.
black and they have it by their driveway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, anyone that puts one of those out, they automatically become a suspect in my eyes that possibly they've seen a Sasquatch before.
Yeah.
You never know. Be
Yeah.
worth
They
asking,
could they
anyways.
could be around here. I haven't seen any around here though.
Yeah, I think the last report I took from Wisconsin was from a place called Wacoma, I think is what it's called.
Watoma.
Watoma, that's what it is. Yeah. Yeah, that was the last place.
There's a lot of Indian names up here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've noticed that. Well, that lets you
Oh,
know it's definitely a.
there is another weird thing up here
Mm-hmm.
near Baraboo, which is only about 20 miles from me. There is one of those man mounds. There's Man Mound Park. Um, it's have you ever heard of those mounds
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
big mounds that people build? Well, they didn't realize it and they put the road across it, so they cut the his feet off. But then after somehow or other, somewhere along the line, they realized that it was a man mound, and now it's preserved. And they have like I guess they do spray paint around it, so it has like a weird shaped head,
Mm-hmm.
like it looks like it could be an alien. And you know, some of these man mounds, they take some, I don't know, some kind of X-ray machinery, and they try to see what's under in the buried in the ground, and they think that there's giants buried in the man mounds.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's
And
the
I
theory
I
that
don't know,
there's giants buried underneath these mounds.
and I don't know if anybody's ever looked at Man Mound Park over in Baraboo, but I'd be curious to. to see if there's anything buried under there.
Oh yeah,
But I
for
tell you
sure.
what, I went to visit there. I only went there one time, and I had weird feelings when I would visit it.
Yeah. And here in Missouri, there's a lot of mounds, and in Illinois on both sides of the Mississippi River. And St. Louis is actually known as Mound City. And some of the mounds, they look like pyramids from Egypt. They're so big, and a lot of people speculate that there's giants that are buried underneath the mounds, and people have had strange, supernatural, and cryptid encounters by the mounds.
Hmm.
Yeah. Ohio is another one. They have the Serpent Mound there and all kinds of other mounds. And of course, in Ohio, there's the Ohio Grassman and a ton of
Yeah.
supernatural activity taking place. I didn't know Wisconsin had the mounds too. So that's really interesting. It definitely points towards an ancient civilization that was connected all throughout North America.
Yeah, I never even heard about giants until recently.
Yeah.
Like I didn't like the Bible talks about the Nephilim and the Raphaim and stuff. I never even paid it. Even if I read the Bible, it never dawned on me that they were talking about giants. I mean, the only giant I ever heard about was David and Goliath.
hmm Yeah. Yeah. This
But
stuff goes way back.
I guess there's saying that there's giants and that they are going to come back.
hmm Yeah, that's what's interesting is the cryptid phenomenon is a global phenomenon, and the giant humans, that's a global phenomenon. And not only that, where they find the giant skeletons and the mounds are areas where the Bigfoot or Dogman reports are coming from. It's all the same areas.
Oh,
hmm
that's
And
interesting.
and the missing people too. They're all in the same areas on the maps, and you can just see a clump of reports in each area. So there seems to be a
Wow.
correlation between them all.
Well, we have a missing person from our town. A boy, 3 years ago. Um, he was 13. He just had a he would have had a 16-year-old birthday, and he's missing.
Did they ever find them?
No, he's not found yet.
Mm, yeah, it makes you wonder. Did he go missing in the forest?
Devil's Lake State Park
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that
over
ma-
by Bearview.
yeah, that makes you wonder, especially since it happened at a state park. What was the name of the state park?
Devil's Lake State Park.
Well, that makes it even worse. It's got devil in the name. I'm saying that because I've heard a lot of places that have devil in it have had cryptid encounters. Like here, they have like the devil's backbone, the devil's elbow. All those places are Sasquatch areas where there's a lot of reports.
Yeah. There I have heard that there are other people that have gone missing at Devil's Lake, but I am only aware of one local resident.
Yeah. Makes you wonder a country that was found on Christianity, why would they name a place Devil's Lake? There had to have been something bad that happened there, something supernatural. I mean, why else would you name it
Yeah.
that?
Well, the story that I heard is that the people from Chicago wanted to have an adventurous getaway. So they named the lake Devil's Lake to give the Chicagoans an adventurous place to go to, to hype it up.
hmm
I mean, that's the story that I heard. I don't know if there's any other stories around out there.
Yeah, that's interesting because where I was talking about here in Missouri, the Devil's Backbone, they said the mob from, or I don't know where they're from. I think Chicago. They used to come down from Chicago and hide bodies out there.
Oh my.
hmm Yeah, it's a spooky area.
They could hide easily at Devil's Lake.
Yeah.
It is a deep lake.
hmm Well, maybe there's
And
more to it.
there's a lake up here, Lake Delton, and the lake accidentally drained one year, and all the houses along the lake went down the river.
Wow.
And they can't even rebuild because the land isn't even there anymore.
Yeah. I'd hate to hear that.
Yeah, Lake Delton. You can look that up too. Yeah, the lake just drained.
Wow. Okay. Do you have any other experiences that you can think of? Anything else that you've heard from anyone else? Anything you'd like to share before we wrap
No,
things up?
I've never. I don't know anybody else who has actually seen a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I don't personally know anybody.
Well, I appreciate you for contacting me and sharing your experience. I know you felt like it wasn't very much, but I feel like that was an excellent report, and you definitely saw something that changed your world that day. And yeah, you're a knower now. You know these things exist; they're out there, and you experience strange activity that most people can't say they have.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know if that's a good thing or.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I consider it.
Sometimes you can't unknow what you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you experience something that most people will never see, so consider yourself lucky. You know that there's more out there than what we're being told, and definitely keep your head on a swivel in the future.
Yeah. Well, thanks for letting me share my story.
Yeah, absolutely, Karen. And you stay warm. If you see anything else in the future, feel free to reach out, and I appreciate everything you did today.
All right. Thanks, Miguel.
Yep. Thank you. You have an excellent day.
You too.
Mhm.
Bye.
Thank you all for listening to this episode of Sasquatch Theory. Karen's encounters stretch across states, decades, and entire belief systems, reminding us that sometimes the strange things we experience aren't isolated events. They're pieces of a much bigger pattern. If you've had an encounter of your own, I'd love to hear it. Share your story with me, and you may be featured on a future episode. Until the next time, keep your eyes open, your lights on, and remember that the woods doesn't fall silent without a reason.